and turn the meeting over to our zoning administrator, Joey Hargis.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The Board of Zoning Appeals is now in session for its regularly scheduled meeting of December 16th, 2021. I'm Joey Hargis, Metro Zoning Administrator, and I'll be presenting the cases for review in today's public hearing. I would ask everyone if you would please silence your cell phones, put them on vibrate or silent so as not to interrupt today's proceedings. The board would appreciate that. The procedure will be to go through the case record as the Codes Department has it, and I'll do that on the wall here by means of a PowerPoint presentation. I'll present any photographs, maps, sketches that have been submitted by appellants, as well as photographs the Codes Department has taken, and I'll also present to the board any letters we've received in support or opposition to a case. At the conclusion of my presentation, the applicant will come first to the table and present their case along with any persons in support. And then if there's opposition, the board will hear from those parties opposed to the case after the appellant goes. The board and their rules provide applicants in cases without opposition 5 minutes to present their case to the board. I'll keep the time over here at my station. I'll let you know when you've got 3 minutes left in your time. In cases with opposition, each side of a case will get 10 minutes to present their testimony. And that's 10 minutes is per side, not per speaker. So if you have multiple speakers, please come forward, work out who's going to talk for how long before you come up to the board. The appellants will want to save a portion of their 10 or 5 minutes for rebuttal, should there be any. All section numbers that I refer to today come directly from the Metropolitan Zoning Code, which was adopted by the Metro Council and became effective January 1st, 1998, and applies to the entire jurisdiction of Metro government. I'll introduce and make a part of the record the entire zoning code, copy of which I have here at my podium, and I'll dispense from reading in the individual sections unless the applicant or opposition or board requests that I read those sections. The zoning code requires that these proceedings be taped. Therefore, it's imperative anyone wishing to address the board to come forward to the table there. Just to the right of the microphone stand is a little button with a figure on it. If you'll push that button one time, the ring around the microphone will light up like mine is, and then you're ready to identify yourself and make your presentation. When you get done speaking, if you'll push the button again, just one time to turn it off. The board will go through all cases set for the hearing today, and after each case, the board will discuss and vote on that case in front of you. The board's vested with the powers to act before us as outlined in Section 1740-180 of the Metro Code of Law. The zoning code requires that 4 members of the 7-member board be present to constitute a quorum. The code also requires 4 affirmative votes to grant your application. Currently, I have 6 members present, so you will need 4 of these 6 members' votes in your favor to approve your case. If in the event that you only get 3 affirmative votes, then your case will stay on our agenda for the next 30 days, and then after 30 days, those members who participated can change their vote. The member who is not present may watch the proceedings and become eligible at the next meeting. After 30 days and you still have 3 votes or fewer, your case is deemed denied by operation of law. Any applicant or aggrieved property owner may request a rehearing within 60 days of this public hearing, and further, any applicant may appeal this board's decision to Chancery or Circuit Court within the same 60-day period, but after that 60 days has elapsed, this board's decision is final. No further action can be taken. Just a reminder, it is necessary for you to obtain and pick up the permit for which you've applied. And if you're approved today, and you've got 2 years from today's meeting to obtain such permit. Mr. Chairman, I submit that all cases were filed in proper order. Appellants were notified as required by the code, and all property owners have been notified as required by the code also. Mr. Chairman, I don't have any preliminary announcements before us today. So without that, I'll go ahead and present the consent agenda. This board has a consent agenda. Chairman Taylor reviews the record in each case prior to today's meeting, and if, in his opinion, the applicant meets the criteria for the application they've requested, and they feel that testimony in the case would not alter the material facts, they recommend the case to the remainder of the board for approval. I'm going to now call out the cases recommended for consent. If you're here in opposition to any of the numbers I call, if you'll raise your hand. Appellants, keep your hand down, but if you're opposed, if you'll raise your hand. The first case, and currently only case on the consent agenda, is case 2021-165, Aventura Community School at 3010 Tuggle Avenue, requesting a change of non-conforming use. Chairman Taylor has recommended consent with the condition that the board's approval is for 3 years. I've spoken with the applicant. They are agreeable to the condition. Are there any parties here opposed to case 2021-165? Mr. Chairman, I see none.
All right.
With that, that is currently your consent agenda.
I have a motion for the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Raise your hand. Any opposed? That motion passes.
Okay. If you're here for that case, case 165, your case has been approved. You're free to go. And, or you can stay if you'd like to, but no one ever takes me up on that. So the street continues. All right, Mr. Chairman, we'll call our first case today. First case today is 2021-161. Mr. Mark Mariani, the appellant, Halcyon Bike Shop LLC, owners of property located at 1117, 1119 3rd Avenue South, requesting variances in landscape buffer, perimeter screening, and loading space requirements in MULA and MULA-NS districts. The appellant is constructing a mixed-use development referred to the board under section 172230C. There's a typo there. It should be 20. 1724-150 and 1712-130. The appellant has alleged jurisdiction under section 1740-180. Item B. The applicant present? Good. Come forward, sir. Any parties opposed to this case? Okay. Seeing none, Mr. Michael, welcome back to the board. You're familiar with the board's rules. And you'll have 5 minutes to present your case, and I'll keep the time here at the podium. And I'll let you know when you've got a couple of minutes left. And let me do our presentation, and I'll turn it over to you, sir. All right, here we go. Okay, case before the board is case 2021-161. Subject property is actually the two parcels, the red parcel I've denoted and the next parcel to the south. That would be here where my cursor, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but it's the next parcel to the south. The subject properties are zone MULA, and that would be the parcel in red. The parcel to the south is zone MULA-NS. The NS stands for no short-term rental permitted on that parcel. View of the aerial. View of the site plan for the subject property. See the proposed structure located here. The two parcels will be combined, and the building will straddle the former property lines. The variances included in here are a landscape buffer located along the south property line. There's a 10-foot buffer required along the entire perimeter. The applicant's requesting to reduce that landscape buffer.
To reduce the what?
That scales out, I believe, Mr. Pepper, to about 4 or 5 feet. I'll get you a definite number here in just a moment. My eyes are struggling with those numbers on the page. Parking lots require perimeter landscaping around them when you have parking structures. So perimeter landscaping in width and it varies between 2.5 and 5 feet, depending on if tree islands are used. That perimeter landscaping is required along the northern property boundary. The landscape buffer proposed here would comply with the perimeter landscaping provisions along the south if installed as shown in that width. If that's 2.5 feet or less, there would need to be a tree island located in that. And then overall, given the mixed-use development, the commercial portion of this development requires a loading space to be provided on site, a 10 by 50 space. And they're requesting to forego that. This is looking into the subject property. Again, both parcels involved here would be this parcel here and the parcel with the red brick structure on it. This is the southernmost property line, and its adjoining neighbor to the south. I failed to mention, I apologize, in the zoning change, the need for the landscape buffer is being driven by the zoning of the structure. I'm not sure why my cursor is not showing up on your screen. But if I could, this parcel here. This parcel is zoned R6 and is surrounded by zoning, which is the MULA and MULANS, as well as mixed-use zoning to the south.
And Joey, what is that one that your cursor's on now? What is it?
Here, this one is zoned mixed-use as well.
Is it NS or is it?
I will look. I believe it's NS also.
Okay.
That larger tract there. So, again, this tract zoned R6, and then the MUL-A NS zones there. And then a view along that property boundary. That's the case we have, Mr. Michael. If you would please identify yourself and make your presentation to the board.
Very well. Good afternoon, members of the board, Mr. Chairman, all of you. I thank you for hearing our case today. My name is John Michael with the Thompson Burton Law Firm here in Nashville, office address 1801 West End Avenue. We bring you greetings from beautiful Midtown. I represent Mr. Mark Mariani on the current matter involving his request for 3 variances for the mixed-use project that they want to bring forth at 1117 and 1119, as demonstrated by Mr. Hargis's presentation. I will continue to emphasize the mixed-use nature of the project because, honestly, that's what brings us here. They could build some commercial, get it done, not need variances. They could build residential, get it done, not need variances. But in order to achieve the city's goals, as demonstrated by creating and then, in this instance, putting in place mixed-use zoning and trying to bring a mix of defined uses to the individual subject property, there will be the need for some variances. The letter that I presented to you as part of the case file application lays out my argument and explanation for what I perceive to be the 2 hardships associated with this project. Rather than reading that back to you with the limited time available to us, I'll merely point to the fact that we have a relative narrowness of the lots, as you saw on the maps that Mr. Hargis presented. Both 1117 and 1119 are just a tick over 30 feet of street frontage. I believe they're 32 and 31 respectively. As you know, 50 is considered standard on a lot of these originally platted lots, and certainly by the time you move into a mixed-use scenario, you're usually looking at something considerably bigger to get the mix of uses into those lots. So with a 32 at 1117 and a 31 at 1119, you look around and find a number of 40s up and down the street and across the street. Not only are these narrow lots, they're decidedly narrower by a, quarter reduction than even the majority of those lots on the street. To that end, it creates a hardship for the inclusion of the mix of uses, which leads into the second part of the argument with regard to hardships. Under state law at 13.7 in particular, we've talked in the past in some instances about the reality of exceptional circumstances. Here, the city has said not only do we want to create mixed-use districts in different places around the city to create more walkable neighborhoods, decrease reliance on cars, but not just put them in the same neighborhood, but put them on the same lot. Ergo, the utilization of the mixed-use districts that and I didn't notice, Mr. Hargis, if you had a zoning map at the beginning of that demonstrating the other zoning districts on the lots up and down this block between Mildred Chute to the north and then the next intersection to the south, virtually everything on there either has an old R6 zoning district or, as you can see along the street, a lot of MULA, now more currently MULA-NS. All of those have been put in place 2015 or more recently. So the city's current trend for this block face at least, and much of the neighborhood, is to move toward a mix of uses via mixed-use districts. However, the uncommonly narrow lots, even when combined, create a substantial hardship and therefore limitation in the ability to fit in not just regular residential, but the added development components that are necessitated for commercial use. Here, we talk about, kind of in my reverse order, the loading zone, which is only necessitated because the presence of a commercial use, and the zoning code, I would say wisely, says only if you have 2,000 square feet of commercial use would you then trigger the need for that minor or the smaller loading zone, or loading space, I guess as it's called under the zoning code in 17.20. However, our proposed project includes about 2,800, plus or minus, 2,800 square feet of commercial use. So to get the commercial in says now you've got to put in a loading space. Now you've got to do the perimeter screening around your parking anyway. And the landscape buffer, of course, goes to the reality that we have an R6 zoned lot that is, in fact, a house to the immediate south of our 2-lot project. Let's take them in the proper order as Mr. Hargis laid them out then. As to the landscape buffer, this to me is critical. The point of a landscape buffer is not just for operational use of the subject property, but because of the enjoyment of adjoining properties, the quiet use and enjoyment, if you will, the aesthetics, if you will. So if I am an R6 zone property with a house right below this project, the idea of the landscape buffer is, well, give me a little separation. Now, if the owner of that property and resident of that home sends in a letter to the Board of Zoning Appeals saying, no, I'm good. I not only support the project as proposed, I specifically support that variance, then it raises the question as to whether or not there is in fact the need, as codified, for the landscape buffer, at least in that location. Maybe you say we would be concerned about other neighbors up and down the street. Maybe that's not the only one that derives some at least secondary measure of benefit. So we've provided letters in your board packet from the other property owners up and down the street, including the large SP multifamily project to the immediate north of our project, indicating,
sir.
beg your pardon.
90 seconds left.
Thank you. Indicating their support for the project and that variance in particular. With regard to the perimeter screening, we believe that the presence of the parking lot is obviously necessary given the 4-unit residential count and the small commercial project. But we also believe that because all of the neighbors who are adjoined and therefore benefited by that perimeter screening have said that they're in support of the variance, that it should not be necessary. Finally, the loading zone is only necessitated, as mentioned, by the small commercial presence. And we believe that that is something that if you're running a restaurant and you're getting 2 big box truck deliveries a day, sure, you need it. If you've got an architect's office or a law office or even a gym, you don't need it. And we think that's what we're looking at here. Naturally, I want to invite any questions from the board.
What is the commercial use?
It is not defined. There's no lease in place. However, they recognize they can't park a bar or a restaurant or probably even a coffee shop here. So it's much more likely to be small office like an architect, law, or other professional office, or possibly a small kind of a custom private style gym, which they would be able to park.
Is the bike shop going there?
The bike shop is no longer part of this,
Okay. So
to my knowledge.
Okay, it's listed as one of the owners, so, Halcyon Bike Shop LLC is the
I think
owner.
that's just a matter of the filing of deeds from the date that we filed this case.
Okay. And so Halcyon Bike Shop LLC has received a variance for the north part of this parcel, and so that's not at play and not this project. Does this project depend upon any of those variances granted?
We are not depending upon those, Mr. Taylor. No, sir.
Okay. And the council member has expressed opposition, and I understand his point, but we're talking, as a variance, we're talking about the narrowness of the lot and that type of thing, and he was concerned, and I think he said he had expressed it to the owners, that because this property it will be joined, but because it is split, MULA and MULA-NS, the NS part, which is the southern part, doesn't allow for short-term rentals, but the northern part does. And I think he was expressing that this was kind of a way to get around the rules. And I guess when I talked to Joey Hargis about it, he said that, and this is just for the board's sake, and then you can confirm that that dotted line that separates the NS from the MULA versus MULA-NS stays with the property once it's combined. And so if they were going to engage in that type of activity, it would have to be in the section of the property where that's allowed. And so by code, they're allowed to do, what they want to do. So that's describes the project, I guess, appropriately, that any residential section you've drawn is going to be in the section which would, by code, allow you whatever you choose or your client chooses to do with that.
That's correct, Mr. Taylor. The commercial would be allowed on either. General residential would be allowed on either. The difference, of course, being the NS component of the property of the zoning district to the south, which would not allow short-term rental use. The project has been designed in accordance with that split zone concept.
Okay.
And as you noted, the criteria for the variance that, there's a concern over, well, these variances might just be a matter of trying to get around to allow. We're not planning to do anything we're not allowed to do. We can pursue by right, what we need to do with just these variances and incorporate the commercial. We hope to stay away from having to do just commercial or just residential, just what's allowed in the base entitlements, and put together a nice mixed project by having these 3 variances. But, the review standards under the zoning code are explicit under 1740-370. Physical characteristics, specifically the narrowness of the lots for a mixed-use property, we've already talked about. The unique characteristics, these 32 and 31-foot lots are different than the majority of 40-footers up and down the street, or even those that are bigger. The hardship, obviously not self-imposed. We didn't carve up these lands. They were deeded this way and platted this way long before we came along. Financial gain is not the only basis. This will probably be at least a break-even profitable project no matter what. This will be a better project for the city, for the neighborhood, and for the developer all the way around. Obviously, no injury to neighboring property is explicitly identified by the letter sent in by the neighboring property owners. No harm to the public welfare other than the council member's expression of concern over short-term rental use, which in these properties, many of which he has rezoned, is allowed by law. And finally, just to the integrity of the master development plan, we don't think there's anything about this project that challenges that. Here we think we've met all the criteria, and humbly we would solicit your support for the three variances sought today.
And so you're not asking for a parking variance, so the use that you propose, the parking requirements that are, I know that the Housing and Bike Shop did ask for a parking variance, but this has the full parking needed for the use that you're proposing, which is the commercial space of 2,800 square feet and the 4 residential units.
There is some speculation in that, but yes, we have parked it adequately, and we know that no use could go into our commercial space if it blew out our parking count. There was considerable forethought that went into that, Mr. Chairman, to make sure we weren't having to rely on parking variance requests, on-street parking rather, but instead park the structure in the lot itself so that we could accommodate that commercial use, especially when it's smaller and less intense in nature, like the examples I gave earlier.
Okay.
I have a question. The drawing in front of us mentions a restaurant. I know you said it's not likely a restaurant would be there. However, the drawing shows it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just thinking out loud, and we probably do need Mr. Hargis to weigh in on this too when he's done, although I'm sure you could probably answer the question. But so my train of thought is the loading space. So if we grant a variance today to not have the loading space, and in the future someone wants to put a restaurant, if it changes hands, what have you, what I don't know is if the loading space will come up again when they apply to have a permit for a restaurant, and if we granted that variance today, would that loading spot not come up again? Because I do think a loading spot is needed for a restaurant, like you said.
That's right.
And so I'm worried about the future and what might happen in the future, and trucks parking in the road, because I get behind those trucks often and they back up traffic. And so I guess we need probably Joey to weigh in on that, although I'm sure you could.
I think what Mr. Hargis will tell you in a moment is that the variance would run with the land. So the question you're raising is right on the point. Yes, it would run with the land. And what if 10 years later, that which had been an architect's office became a very small bistro cafe of a limited 2,800 square feet? Well, all at once, you probably are taking bigger deliveries, but there's that variance. Impliedly, does that raise the possibility of some sort of a condition? A conditional approval for a removal of the loading variance for either X number of years, or in the alternative, which I think is more prudent, only if it doesn't include a restaurant or bar at that location, places that we know take more day-to-day type deliveries than a professional office, a gym, whatever. Once you have the business, you've moved into those businesses, you're pretty much moved in and you're not taking big box deliveries anymore. So we would certainly be all ears to any suggested condition toward that end, not necessarily taking uses off the table that we don't already think are kind of off the table as a practical matter.
Okay, thanks.
John, what you're doing is you're taking a snapshot today, that snapshot may change or morph into something else is what I'm hearing. I guess I'm going to accentuate what you just said. You want to, you're doing away with trees and buffering and that little landscape area, and you know how I am with that type of stuff.
Yes, sir.
But you're also restricting, or at least presently telling us you're restricting what may happen down the road And I'm having a hard time getting there with you. And
In terms of the
because you're-
specific uses?
Yeah, the uses.
Okay.
Because you do have this loading area for trash or loading area for stuff coming in. If you've got a liquor store, you're going to have a Best Brands truck out there. Or you're going to have Lippman, or you're going to have other of my favorite types of stores or trucks or what have you. Or you're going to have the food companies delivering their stuff. And I'm hearing you say, well, we don't want to take those particular potential tenants out of the mix. We want to leave them in there, but we want you to think it's always going to be a professional. And how do you get me there? Because you're asking me to.
Yeah, and I can get you there. It's the answer that I gave Ms. Karpenick on that. We recognize that there are certain uses that just won't work if you don't have the loading space, or because it's a fairly limited 2,800 square foot box. So, whatever chain restaurant is just not going to come there, and whatever larger liquor store, everybody wants a neighborhood wine shop in their neighborhood. You and I certainly do anyway, but at 2,800 square feet and all of the state requirements and local requirements for having a wine or liquor store, it's just not happening there. So we entertain any suggestion from the board that might be an appropriate limitation on use, something that we can agree upon and say, hey, it's just never going to be a restaurant, a bar. Again, as a practical matter, we can't park that. We're coming right back to you X number of months from now saying, oh, and by the way, may we also please have a parking variance, because at 1 per 100 square feet or whatever the ratio is on a restaurant or bar, they would never be able to get there. So it's not that we're unwilling to take things off the table. We certainly prefer not to. Why limit yourself based upon, when you're already allowed to do under the law? But for this minority portion of the project that is commercial, and it is statistically a minority of the project, we are open to any suggestions from the board about what might be an appropriate condition in exchange for the granting of the loading zone variance.
But you've got 2,800 square feet commercial, right?
Right.
Okay.
As designed, yes, sir.
As you've got it set up right now, but yet that's not that small a location if you wanted to have a wine shop, or if you wanted to have, like Marche's used to be. I mean, downstairs was relatively small, but, and I'm just, obviously, what Christina heard didn't quite totally translate to me, and I'm having and you haven't gotten me yet, and you've heard that line from me before, so
Sure.
It's not anything new. Help me. I mean, you're going to have to work on a little bit harder, at least for one of the however many there are of us up here.
I'd have it no other way, Mr. Lawless,
But
as I'm
didn't
sure
you-
you can imagine.
I mean, you would accept a condition that said, we provide a variance for the loading space requirement provided no restaurant or bar occupy that space. Should a restaurant or bar occupy that space, then they would have to appeal that requirement
Come back
on
to
its
the board.
own.
Precisely.
That's what he had proposed. I mean, is that?
But he was not wanting to have it in there, and you're going to have you're going to have to, are we going to delineate all of those types? I mean, if it's a liquor store, you're going to have deliveries, and if you don't have the loading area, they're going to park on the street. I mean, UPS always stops on the street, and so does the Postal Service, and so does everybody else, and it's.
And
what
Mr.
you're-
Lawless, we've never talked about this, but my mother had a restaurant for many years down in the small town where I grew up in Dixon. So I know what she expected every week running her restaurant. It was multiple deliveries per week. And when they pull in, it's not the Amazon truck, drop off 3 boxes, take a picture, leave. It's not UPS. It's not even US Postal. It's a pretty good, at least a box truck, if not bigger, from Robert or Cisco or some specialty carrier of some sort. And they get out the 3-wheel dolly, and there's some poor fella or some poor gal working a while. That's going to hold the space for quite some time, whether you've got the loading zone or not. And just like you said, if there is no loading zone, that's a good-sized truck parked out front for quite some time. Now, our neighbor to the south with that R6 zone property and a house, he's going to get something from Amazon, UPS, US Mail, maybe even a piece of furniture being delivered on the rare occasion. But that's going to be maybe once a day for those kind of deliveries, maybe once a week. Similarly, if you're not running the restaurant, even a a retail-oriented clothing store, hardware store, wine shop, those things are more likely to take their deliveries not on an everyday basis, but it's the restaurant where you're going to see those folks a lot, restaurant or bar, I should say. So that's where we're very flexible on this notion of, one, sure, we recognize that that might be a very appropriate condition to merit the removal of the loading zone requirement, again, with an eye toward the relatively small commercial piece of this at 2,800 square feet, plus or minus. And two, we really do think it's different because, again, I know what Mama expected at her restaurant in terms of when the deliveries came, how long they stayed there, and it was not a small matter. So that's where I've conferred with the client to make sure that's something we could potentially agree to. And as the chairman stated, in the event many years from now, when this builder is long gone, when their attorney is long gone, when whomever is long gone, anybody that wanted to come in and either use that existing space or build out the space for more use toward commercial restaurant, bar type use, they'd have to come back to the board in that scenario and ask for permission to keep that removal if we use that condition. And I'm open to that. Certainly we prefer not to take things away, but I recognize that that's a pretty reasonable and smart condition to apply. One other item you mentioned, we are not removing any grand old trees, just asking to have permission to stay away from. So we're at least trying to make sure we're not a minus of anything that's grand.
Okay, and I do, Mr. Chairman, I do want to say, any particular business or organization that I referenced personally, it was more for descriptive purposes, not for an advertising purpose. And I'm sure John will make the same.
No endorsement
or
made.
that too.
All right. Any other questions at this point for Mr. Michael? All right. Did you have anything else to add at this point?
Nothing further. I thank you for your time and attention. Happy to answer any questions.
Then we will close the public hearing.
Well, I think there is a hardship here, and I think the applicant has said he's willing to accept a condition of no restaurant and no bars, and that to me is reasonable and, so that's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, I agree. And, I would be open to just, let that play out, but I'm also willing, if it sounds like the board is we have at least a couple of folks that are wanting that that criteria, mainly because if he puts a restaurant, he's going to have a parking variance, and if he has a parking variance, then that issue will come up again. And I don't know that you can put
Will the loading space come up again? That was my question.
Well, I think it would be part of the. I don't know. I don't think it would come. I think it would come up as an issue. Like, you've already, you're wanting a parking variance, and yet you still have no space for your people to park because there's only 8 parking spaces here, and your 2,800 square foot restaurant might require more parking. But I've said I'm comfortable with. I think that the board would have to address that again. But I'm comfortable with the criteria that it or the addition that it not be a restaurant or bar without coming back to discuss the well, and I mean, but even that, I mean, it's just 2,800 square feet. It's not that giant a space. 3rd Avenue, I mean, my yoga studio, I haven't been in a couple of years. It was just down the street. It's not a busy street. You have 4th Avenue and 2nd Avenue that are the big streets that are on either side of it. This isn't the major street. And so and there's an alley. And so, I mean, I get the point, and it's a reasonably narrow street, but, that smaller restaurant is not going to be getting, it might get 3 deliveries from Cisco a week if it plans it right. I only get 3 deliveries from Cisco a week, and, and from my restaurant, and it's just not, now, of course, we're on Church Street, and they're in we have a loading zone now in front of the building, but hopefully it's not too disruptive. But it just seems like that we're anticipating a major problem on a street that most likely is not going to have it. I don't mind it putting in there, but I think it may be overkill to go too deep into down that way. I think if that's the only holdup, if everybody agrees that the other two variance requests, the landscape buffer and the perimeter screening are fine, then let's satisfy the loading space, how we need to. And
could we make a condition that deliveries happen in the back in the parking area when it's the business is not in operation? I mean, is that, that way you don't have people coming the front. It's coming to that back parking lot. Unless it's a 24-hour open store, or something like that, could be an option.
yeah.
I don't know how we would, my concern about that would be
Yeah.
how to enforce it. Another observation I'd make is, right now, if they rewrote the zoning code, I swear in every neighborhood they ought to put a loading zone, because when I come home in the afternoon, it's now a stream of Amazon trucks. And I just think it's, delivery is just it's part of our fabric now. It's going to happen, and we seem to be getting, we get by okay without, in a lot of places, I think without loading zones where we probably need loading zones, so.
And I do understand that. I also just popped in my head. If there is possibility of short-term rental on portion of this, there's some place that Ubers and Lyfts and whatever other, ride sharing comes to pick up, that they might be able to use that loading zone too. But
To me, those are short, Amazon comes, it's fast, usually fast, although I can't get to my own home because they block my street, but the Uber's fast. I'm just thinking about things that take a while, and I've been stuck trying to get here often with trucks that are just parked, and it takes a long time for them to unload and backs the rest of us up. So,
And if you go around it, you got a dangerous situation for people coming from the other direction.
yeah. And I understand the point. The commercial space is small, but there could be things that we haven't thought about today that may have deliveries every day. I don't know. I can't possibly think of everything that might happen in a commercial space, but I do know the loading space is in the zoning code for a reason. And
Well, you've also got on the buffer, you've got the person that lives next to it. That particular owner may not have a problem and be all in for it. What about the next owner? Or the one after that?
Well, that is very true. It is an odd lot out, and that,
It's growth. It's growth that we can't, it's a city, it's urban. That's what happens.
I look at it as that the next owner will know what they're buying.
They hope, yeah.
Yeah, they'll know what's next door, unless it's sold within a couple days.
Well, there's a lot of people from California and New York moving here, and they wouldn't mind it anyway. They'd probably want a liquor store.
in the overall context too, though, it's a sea of MUL zoning or mixed-use zoning with little spot zonings of R6 in there. It's not like it's a big R6 neighborhood and you have a spot zoning of MUL. That's I think what's clear if you look at the broader picture. So if someone's coming to buy a house in that neighborhood, I don't think they could reasonably expect for it to be just like a single-family residential R6 home anywhere else. So I think again, like kind of you said, that person knows what they're getting into, I think.
Just reviewing the packet, I think we're all in agreement on the buffer, but it's not clear what the request is on that buffer. I see 2 foot 10, I see 3 foot 10, and I see 3 foot 10 3/4 in different places. So, maybe we need to clarify that.
is that on the site plan that you're looking at?
Yeah, so on the, first page of the case is the request of variance for a 2 foot 10 buffer. On the checklist, it says 3 foot 10, and then on the site plan, it says 3 foot 10 3/4, down on the far left corner.
We'll open, I think John is asking, and so we can open the public hearing to know.
So, Mr. Cole, thank you for the question. Having confirmed, sorry.
No, yeah, we'll open
Okay,
the
thank
public
you.
hearing and for you to answer that question.
The site plan provided by our architects that shows the 3, 10, and 3/4 is apparently precisely what's required. And whether it was 3, 3/10, 4, 5, that would be what we were requesting by way of variance. So in this instance, it just happens to be 3, 10, and 3/4.
So you're not requesting 2 for 10, correct?
No, we're requesting the 3, 10, and 3/4.
Got it.
Yes, sir.
All right.
All right, we'll close public hearing again. Is that, okay. Well, I'll throw something out to see where we are. We'll make a motion that we approve the variance request for landscape buffer and perimeter screening based on the narrowness of the lot. We also will approve the variance for loading space requirements, provided that the commercial use exclude a restaurant or bar if that use is ever desired, then that requirement would have to come back before this board for discussion.
Second.
Do what?
So that restriction for restaurants or a bar or similar type of pub is going to run with the land?
Yeah, I mean, as all variances, and unless the codes change and it doesn't require a variance anymore, it would run with the land and whoever owns that piece of property.
And you hope that the damn title searcher picks it up. You have more confidence in title searchers than I do, but.
Not much.
No, I understand.
So that's the motion, and if there's a second, we'll move forward. If not, then we'll keep talking. All right, it has a second.
Mr. Chairman, one question. If title search is a concern, we could require the appellant to record this with the Register of Deeds. This order, the board's order.
All right, so then that will be the final amendment, if you will agree to that as a second.
So it's amended to include a requirement that it be recorded with the Davidson County Register of Deeds.
That's right.
Okay, yes, I second it with the.
All right, have a motion and have a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye, raise your hand. Those opposed? Did you vote for it or against it? So that was 4-2. All right, that motion passes 4-2. All right, good luck.
Board members.
All right, Joey, did you all,
Yes,
where are
sir.
we on 158?
Yes, sir. The case 158, 100 Bonnebrook Drive, the appellant in opposition that was present had a chance to speak prior to this case you just heard, and the opposition has left. They had their questions answered by the appellant.
So they're no longer in opposition?
They're no longer in opposition. I did speak with the appellant because one of the opposition mentioned receiving a notice for the required community meeting late, and the applicant did submit to our staff confirmation of notice to the neighbors. She did hold a meeting. 4 folks showed up.
Okay.
So that the notice requirement is satisfied.
All right. Is there anybody else present here in opposition for case 158? All right, that case was originally on the consent agenda, and we had someone that thought they were in opposition but really needed more information. That's been satisfied. So if the board will allow, I will move that case 158 be approved as part of the consent agenda as it was originally intended. And I have a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor of that motion, say aye and raise your hand. Any opposed? That motion passes. All right,
Okay,
thank
Mr.
you,
Chairman.
and good luck.
The next case, next 2 cases, I think for ease of purpose, the cases are identical. They're adjoining properties. If the board can consider both case 162 and 163 together. But the next cases, the Matthew Hagerty is the appellant and Central Coast Properties LLC. The owner of the property is located at 1259 and 1261 2nd Avenue South, requesting a variance from the sidewalk requirements in RM 20-A-NS district The appellant seeking to construct two single-family residences without constructing the sidewalks and is requesting this board grant him the opportunity to contribute to the sidewalk in lieu fund. Referred to the board under section 1720-120. The appellant has alleged jurisdiction under section 1740-180. Item B, the appellants are present. If they want to come forward, I'll go through our presentation first, and then I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Hagerty. Are there any parties present in opposition to the case, Mr. Chairman? They're seeing none. The only person in the audience is the next case. So,
Mr. Harris, you say we're hearing both of these together?
yes, sir.
Yeah.
I think you. I mean, they are identical. The requests are identical, but
I didn't understand the order.
yes.
And Joey, when you introduce a case, after you explain the issues, will you also just quickly review the process to date? Because
Sure.
I think just remind us where we are in terms of while we get sidewalk cases and what they've gone through in order for it to come to us.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'll actually cover that up front. This board, especially, of course, I departed codes for 5.5 years. This board was inundated with short-term rental cases and sidewalk cases. The council created a short-term rental board, and those cases are now heard by that entity. And then sidewalks they created a sidewalk waiver committee that would meet and make recommendations to the zoning administrator, and then I, as zoning administrator, would make a determination based off that recommendation. And then if an appellant did not agree with my determination, they could appeal to this board. And that's what the appellants are doing here in this case. So that's why you don't hear as many of these cases come before you. But in this case, the appellants filed a sidewalk waiver request with my office, and after Planning Commission and NDOT reviewed the case, they recommended to us a disapproval request, and that the applicant shall build an alternative sidewalk at 8 feet in width with a 4-foot grass strip. The applicant in his request was requesting, I believe, to pay the in lieu of fee and not construct that. And there are existing sidewalks, and I'll show you the photographs and topographic. I looked at the case. There is topographic hardship here in the sense of to not build to the major collector street standard, which is a 10-foot sidewalk and a 6-foot grass strip. But looking at planning's recommendation, I felt there was space for them to accomplish what planning was wanting to do. So I denied the request, and in all those denial letters to the applicant, it's noted they can appeal to this board. So I say that as you see these cases, I don't want to prejudice applicants before you. They have a right to come here if they disagree with this determination. So he's here before you. Let me. And we heard that, I think, back in July roughly, and that was my recommendation. I'm showing you on screen to the appellant. Okay, so back to the case at hand. The subject properties are located on the west margin of 2nd Avenue South. Again, 2nd Avenue is a north-bound one-way street just south of where we're currently seated. You see in the new Wedge, I believe this is in the new Wedgwood Houston overlay. His permits predate that overlay, so for the record, he's not subject to those conditions placed on those lots. These two parcels are located here. And then the site plans for the two townhomes that are located here. He's requesting to pay in lieu. He's required, based off the sidewalk waiver section, to build an 8-foot sidewalk with 4-foot grass strip. And then this is looking at the subject property from 2nd Avenue, looking into the site. As you note, the property does go uphill at this location. And then a view of the existing sidewalk conditions, excuse me, on 2nd Avenue. As we talked about here, there is some topographic, but the Planning Commission is requesting a 4-foot grass strip here and an 8-foot sidewalk in width. I believe this existing sidewalk is 4 feet in width.
Do you know how wide is the existing grass strip?
I don't, Mr. Chairman. If I had to guesstimate, maybe 2.5 feet, roughly. Well, I tell you this, the public hearing sign is 3 foot wide. So if I can give you some sort of scale, it's probably about 3 feet in width. Your public hearing signs are 2 by 3. And I'm going to leave that slide up because I think it's the one that shows most, but.
Mr. Hargis,
Yes.
is the picture before, was that taken at a different time, it looks like, than these pictures?
No, I actually shot them both. I parked on the side of the street there and shot into the site. And then my second photograph, I was standing in the shade here.
Yeah.
Okay.
It looks a lot steeper on the sidewalk than it does across the street, so
So the two buildings with the zip sheathing we see there, that's the properties in question?
Those are the properties
Okay.
in question,
All right,
yes,
thank
sir.
you. I just couldn't see those in the other pictures, so I thought, is this like before they were built, or?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
sir.
any
I
other
got you.
questions?
I
for
just
Mr.
didn't,
Sonny?
in this photograph, I just didn't shoot it straight on from
Okay.
that side of the street. But I'll leave that photograph up. And gentlemen, if you would please state your names and present your case to the board. You'll have 5 minutes to present your testimony.
All righty, well, I appreciate you guys hearing us out. As the owner of the property, I'm also the general contractor and builder of these houses. And
Sorry, can you tell us your name? I don't,
Matthew Hagerty.
okay, thank you.
And so as the builder, if we construct these with a 4-foot mow strip and an 8-foot wide sidewalk, there is a substantial drop from the existing sidewalk down to the front of the houses. Now, if we widen it to 12 feet, there's going to be an approximate 6-foot drop. And then, in addition to being a builder, I'm also a licensed structural engineer. And to build a 6-foot retaining wall on that kind of slope, the footing itself will be about 1 foot deep, and we'll probably have to go about another foot or so into the ground to resist overturning and sliding forces to build this wall. So we're talking about roughly about 8-foot retaining wall that I'm going to have to build, which would give me about a 4-foot wide footer, and approximate cost would be anywhere from about $12,000 to $15,000 just to build the retaining wall. That doesn't include redoing the sidewalks and all of that. So the reason we are appealing the decision is, one, there's a financial burden, but also, as you can tell from the previous photo, not all of 2nd Avenue South is sloped like this. As you go up north, the lot flattens out quite a bit towards the front, and then also the grade of the street flattens out pretty significantly. So there are a few houses about 1,500, 2,000 feet north past this property where newer houses have done 8-foot wide sidewalks just in front of the property. But on this part of the street, not only does it slope down, there's that significant slope at the front of the lot as well. So my concern, more than just the financial burden of it, is as a structural engineer, by code, I have to always design for health, life, and safety. Now, I can do that with the retaining wall itself, but as far as, somebody riding their bike or a stroller or something like that that's coming down that steep of a grade on the sidewalk, all of a sudden has a 6 to 8 foot retaining wall right next to it. In my eyes, that's a very unsafe condition to have.
So how do you?
Why is that? I read that in your materials. I mean, I see retaining walls next to sidewalks all over town. I never have looked at one and thought that's an unsafe condition.
Yeah, usually the retaining walls, and I've designed quite a few of them. I do a lot of design work for builders as well. And usually it's not as steep of a drop as you have here. Usually there's a drop as you go from the sidewalk to the house. However, this has an added condition of the sidewalk being sloped down anyways as you approach these houses. So just as somebody who rides my bike around town pretty often, the first thing that comes into my mind is somebody biking, somebody with a stroller. There's a lot of families in this neighborhood now since it is getting developed pretty heavily. My just main concern is that somebody's coming down that street and now all of a sudden there's a 6 to 8 foot drop right in front of these houses. Now, one of the arguments made was that, well, yeah, this street is developing and at some point the whole street's going to be an 8-foot wide sidewalk with a 4-foot mow strip. Well, the house that's just north to these two houses, the gray house in the bottom photo, I renovated myself. I owned it. I sold it to an investor. He's holding on to it as a long-term rental property, so I don't think he'll be developing anytime soon. And then the lot just adjacent south, 1263 2nd Avenue South, has a sewer easement in it because there's a 8-foot wide sewer right under that, which actually made us put a carport into 1261 as opposed to a garage. So that lot will never be able to get developed. So the one thing I also want to avoid is, essentially a big zigzag in front of these houses. Since north, directly north and south, those lots most likely are not going to get developed. So,
And I may just be misunderstanding. I envision the retaining wall as being on the inside of the sidewalk towards the property and it would be necessary to essentially mitigate that slope. And maybe I don't, because I think you said something about it.
Yeah, so the width of the sidewalk, the 4-foot width that's currently there, or an 8-foot width, there's going to be a 2% slope just for watershed. However, the slope of the hill, the street itself, and the sidewalk itself going north-south, so parallel with the street, that is at a much steeper grade than just your standard 2% for watershed. And that's just because the street was built to the topography of that area originally.
Yeah, Mr. Pepper, if I could add, members, and I don't mean to testify for the applicant. I was pretty close to a 50-50 on this one myself, and I felt that in a case, this is kind of one that I ran into. The case it was a close call. I'd rather bring it here and let this board decide. I was a bit on the fence whether to grant this outright at the time of his filing, because he does have the slope coming down at him in the right-hand photograph of Second itself, but he's also sloping away from that slope. He's got kind of two slopes going here. But I feel like in close cases in this, I would rather bring it to this board for the board to decide.
And just to make a note, I'm also building houses on North Hill Street and Shepherd Street, which are about 2 blocks away from here. And I applied for the sidewalks in lieu, got denied for those, but I'm not going to be fighting those because, I am able to widen the sidewalks. I think we came to an agreement of another 8-foot wide sidewalk on those streets, if I believe correctly. Anyways, long story short, I'm not going to be fighting those just because they don't provide the same health, life, safety issue that this one does.
So it looks like the sidewalks that are currently existing, at least from the picture I can see, aren't in totally good repair. I mean, you've got some erosion and, underneath some. What do you plan, if we're allowing you to keep these sidewalks and pay into the fund, what are your plans to, grade and work and basically make these sidewalks, they look fairly dangerous now, or at least as dangerous as what you might describe with the wall. What do you plan to do to make these sidewalks a little better?
Grade up to it.
What's that?
Grade up to it.
Well, one of the things that we're planning on doing is bringing in a little bit of fill to make the grade a little bit better in that area, because right now, even the steps to the house that's there, man, it's a pretty decent step down. So I was proposing to bring some fill in to at least make it a little bit more gradual of a slope to the houses. As far as the sidewalks themselves, they have eroded a little bit. But, I wouldn't be opposed to pulling them out and just redoing the sidewalks as well. My underground utility guys were able to dig under the existing sidewalks so we didn't damage them or anything. But, the concrete itself's actually in great quality. But, as you know, over time, things will move and shift and things like that. So I wouldn't be opposed to compromising and pulling them out and just repouring them as is with the 4-foot width.
And so
having-
what is the, if you had a 4-foot sidewalk, what is the widest grass strip you could provide without having to build a substantive retaining wall?
Well, the bottom photo, if you look as far down on the photo as you can, that's where the steepest part is, and short of leaping down, it's a pretty steep drop. So the mow strip itself, where it's at, I do believe it's about a 2.5 foot, maybe a little bit wider, maybe 3 foot wide mow strip. Widening that anymore, I don't think would be a good idea.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant at this point?
Yeah, my name is Ronnie Booth.
Yeah.
I live at 1229 2nd Avenue South, just up the block here. I'm one of those 8-foot wide sidewalks on a flat lot. This photo is the best photo of it if you were on site. If we went back to the other photo, it looks like it's relatively level. However, that ivy or whatever kind of weeds those are have grown up quite a bit. But right there at the bottom portion of that photo is the best example of what it looks like. The stairs that are to the north of this property right there, if you were to step down, the first step down is about that tall. They're not up to code by any means. You're not able to see from the photo, but yes, those right there. As Matt mentioned, we renovated that property, and those steps were already in place, and we left those in place, but put the new railing in. So just to give a reference as to how steep of a grade we're referring to, that there's that.
Okay. Any other questions? You have anything else to add?
No, sir.
All right, then we will close the public hearing and ask the board for their thoughts.
I have thoughts. I don't know where I land on it, but I have thoughts. One of the thoughts is if they were to build the 8-foot sidewalk, or to build the retaining wall, all that kind of stuff, I mean, it does make for, in this case, I think it makes for a reduced pedestrian experience, because you probably need a handrail along this thing anyways to keep somebody from falling down the hill. Think of some drunk person walking down this way and they stumble a little bit and fall down the hill and break their neck and then sue whoever. I don't know who gets sued then. Attorneys could help with that. But in the same vein, if you build a retaining wall, then you're having to build steps from the sidewalk down to the house to access the house, or in either way, you've got some crazy water drainage kind of things going on, and I'm not sure exactly where I fall on that. Pervious versus impervious, and but either way, I think that probably should be addressed, and I'm sure the builders, know all about that and are doing that. But those are the thoughts that are going through my head right now on this, and I'm not sure, like I said, where I land on it right now. We have heard from a lot of attorneys here lately.
I'm just a little, you go.
No, I'm torn as well, right? So we're going to put in this wide 8-foot sidewalk that abruptly ends at the property line. It goes back to the 4 feet, which I think could, present some type of safety risk as well, especially with that steep drop off at that corner. So, I debate, are we making it safer by going with the 8-foot sidewalk?
I guess I'm the opposite of my other two colleagues. I think that we design and build with grading issues all the time. And like the councilman said, maybe something could have been regraded differently at the outset. And that's just how Nashville is. Every project I have, you have to work with the grades. And what I'm looking at on my screen is the homes on top of the survey, and some things are just not matching up. But that doesn't look like what we see in the photos. So I would go with widening the sidewalk at some, maybe keeping the grass strip in place that's existing, widening the sidewalk, maybe a compromise would be 6 feet instead of 8 feet, which is 2 more feet than this current sidewalk, if I understand it right. And, you know, regrade the site, and if you have to build the retaining wall, build it with the handrail, a guardrail, excuse me. That's where I am with it.
Yeah, that guardrail is a good compromise. I didn't think of that. Adding the guardrail. Yeah, I do think we should add the guardrail. Sorry, I didn't think of that yet.
Well, I think it probably is required if, you know, if there's a drop of a certain, maybe it's 30 inches, it's probably required.
I believe that's in the code. Yeah, and I mean, I think, and I'm sure that the applicants could clarify this. I think what's shown in the survey is the 8-foot sidewalk and the grading may be required for that? Or actually, it looks like it shows a 10-foot sidewalk on the survey, so.
Yeah.
So that's not existing, that's what they're.
That's what they're supposed to put, and now they're trying to do not that. So that's what I understand, at least.
Okay, so then that proves the point, it could have been done like that.
Any other?
Christina's comments, a motion?
Was there any more discussion?
Actually, I take that back. I believe what it has is the existing contours, and it has a 10-foot sidewalk overlaid on the existing contours. Can we reopen the public hearing to get some clarification on that?
Sure.
Okay.
We'll open the public hearing.
Are you guys able to pull up the drawing?
Yeah, this drawing is on the screen right now.
Yeah. So as a structural engineer and a builder, I can make anything look beautiful and easy to build. And having built as a laborer for years, just because I can make it look pretty and it looks good on a drawing doesn't mean that it is going to be functional in the field. With that said, though, you know, we can bring fill in, we can, you know, make the drop a little less gradual.
I guess what we're asking is what you see on the screen is, this shows a 10-foot sidewalk, is that correct?
Yes. Well,
Okay.
I'd have to measure it,
Well,
obviously.
it's got a note there that says 10-foot sidewalk, so I just assume.
Well, I can label it 100-foot sidewalk, you know, and the reason I'm being a little argumentative with this drawing is I wasn't too happy with the surveyor. I had to get the drawing revised 10 times for him. MWS told me multiple times, here's the notes to put on the drawing. So I told him, here's the notes to put on the drawing. And it took 4 iterations to get that done. So I can honestly say I don't even know if that's drawn to scale.
I certainly understand that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I was just looking at where it said there's an elevation of 445, then it rises to elevation of 450. There's no dip. So that's what's been confusing me all this time. So,
Which probably underscores the applicant's previous comment. Was there any other questions for the reopened public hearing? Then we will reclose the public hearing and discuss. So,
Before they got approval on the sidewalk. I mean, that's what I'm looking at. The buildings are already there.
well, and I mean, when we used to hear all the sidewalk cases, it was rare that anybody ever came to us before.
They're asking for forgiveness and not permission.
Well, because it just takes so long. Well, it's not even forgiveness. They're just settling that. I mean, they can't get their use and occupancy before this is settled. And one way or the other, it's going to be settled. And so they'll either get it or they won't. You know, I mean, they're either going to have to build the sidewalk fully up to what planning wants, or have to do something in between, or they're going to get to pay into the fund, which is what they want. I mean, they're going to have one of those options when this hearing's done.
Yeah, they're going to build the building the same.
so
It's just
it's-
like what they do on the site.
But when we heard all the sidewalk cases, it was extraordinarily rare that we had someone come to us before they started a project, because ultimately it's kind of a minor part of the whole project.
It's typically the last thing built. as we're ready to get UNO. So but that's why we don't hold permits. I don't want to delay construction 6 or 8 weeks over this issue that's, 3 months away or 4 months away.
But it wasn't an unknown situation that they had, so.
That's right.
Okay.
So I guess I see 3 things potential. One is the applicant has made his case and we allow him to pay into the fund. The other is extreme is we go fully with planning, which is the 4-foot grass strip and the 8-foot sidewalk. And then the third option is what Christina was beginning to propose, which was, I think, the existing grass strip, which we think is somewhere between 2 and 3 feet, and then a 6-foot sidewalk. So it seems, or some other compromise. And so it seems like those are kind of the 3 options presented to us. Are there any that are jumping out at anyone as the right answer?
Well, I think I like Ms. Carpenter's suggestion. If that were a motion, I would if that were a motion, I would second it. I don't think, I'm not ever going to know the perfect right answer here, and I think that to me seems pretty well based and very reasonable. And that part of building houses that, the whole idea in Nashville now is we want the sidewalks upgraded, and that's just, I think that's a good thing, and a lot of people have had to pay money to do it, so.
And as you make a motion, we're going to need to make 2, and so this one is for case 162, and then presumably we'll make the same motion for 163 if something passes, and if it doesn't, we'll just keep talking until something passes and still have to pass it twice because we have 2 cases.
Okay, thanks for that reminder. Hopefully I'll make the same motion twice. So I will move to approve a variance to start the new sidewalk at the edge of the existing grass strip. The new sidewalk will be 6 feet in width, and we're required by the building code guardrails be installed.
If required by the building code?
Yeah, if and where required.
Okay, meaning that, so if the grade is such that they don't need handrails, they don't, but if it is required that they do, they do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Second.
Has a motion as a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye, raise your hand. Any opposed? That motion passes. We'll move to case 163
Okay.
and offer the same motion.
Same motion. Do I need to repeat it again, or?
All right.
I do, okay.
You do, okay.
Yeah.
Hold on.
So move that the existing grass strip remain, the new sidewalk be built at the edge of the existing grass strip, 6 feet wide, and guardrails be installed where and if required by the code.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of that motion, raise your hand and say aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. All right, good luck. All right, now we'll hear the last case, case 166.
Okay, the final case on today's agenda is case 2021-166. Stephanie McKelvey, the appellant, Girl Tribe Ventures LLC, the owner of the property located at 885 West Sharp Avenue, requesting an addition to a non-conforming residence in the RS UZO district. The appellant is constructing a second-story addition to the existing dwelling, which encroaches on the contextual setback referred to in the board in section 1740-660. The appellant has alleged jurisdiction under section 1740-180 item D. If the appellant is present, come forward. Record reflects there's no one else in the room but us and the appellant. I'll go through the presentation first and then turn it over to you, Miss. The subject property is located on, as I said, at 880 West Sharp Avenue, which is located in this RS5 district. The subject property, as you see here, is this is an aerial photo a few years back that showed the footprint of the existing residence. It sits in front of the existing homes. The council amended street setbacks some years back, switching from just a strict table-based determination to surveys by contextual survey, and that's the survey that's been submitted by the appellant in this case that shows the adjoining residences and their dimensions, and as you see, the existing residence came here. Our office became aware of this. This work actually started without a permit, and so stop work notice was placed on the premises, and this is the construction that you see here. The zone does permit a three-story dwelling to be here, but what's before you is that because the existing residence sat closer than the average setback, any additions to that structure have to come to this board to seek approval prior to construction. And this is a view of the subject property and then the adjoining properties on either side. There are two legally non-conforming duplexes on the west side of the subject property. Those are those two structures there. I did meet with the neighbor to the right, came to my office this week to review the case file. But that's case record as well. Have it.
Was that the neighbor? I guess that neighbor didn't express
the neighbor's concern was over the height, but she was not aware that actually 3 stories would be permitted. So once I alerted her of that, she didn't have an issue with the height of the structure any longer.
And it's built on the existing foundation?
It is. The first floor is here. I have a shot of the back. I apologize, I didn't include it, and I'll let the applicant cover the status of the former residence on that first floor. But,
And under a request for an addition to a non-conforming residence, what criteria should we be?
Appropriateness. It's appropriateness under the code. That particular section of the code states that the board shall determine the appropriateness of additions or changes to non-conforming uses or structures.
Okay. All right. Ma'am, if you'd state your name and address and tell us about your project.
Yeah, thanks guys for seeing me. Stephanie McElvey here. I'm the owner of this project. Clearly, I'm here to ask for forgiveness. The GC started working while the application for the permit was in process. I guess I'm just here to try to get a permit. And the neighbor was upset to the right of this because we put a window on the second story that looks down into her window, which is apparently her master. So she asked us to move that, and so if that makes her happy, we absolutely will.
And so you added a second story to an existing home, and is any of the project outside the original footprint of?
No.
So it's built on the existing foundation and?
Yeah.
Okay. Questions?
I see like a porch kind of thing happening here. Is that going to remain unenclosed and?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any questions? All right. Anything else to add?
No.
All right, we will close the public hearing and discuss. And Joey, appropriateness is just it's a non-conforming use, and
Yeah,
is
it's
appropriateness just our judgment of, is it?
Yes, sir, it is. It is a somewhat subjective standard in this case.
And typically, if it goes from one non-conforming use to another, we have a standard of, is it more or less non-conforming?
Yes.
But this is just it's a residence.
This is just the structure.
And it's just a bigger residence than it was originally. And I think you said the non-conformity dealt with the setback.
From the street, yes, sir.
Which this one is not a greater setback encroachment because it was built on the same foundation.
Yeah, I agree.
That's correct. And the use itself is not, this is and will remain a single-family residence
Okay.
on this structure.
So we're looking at the structure. It's a non-conforming structure case. Or addition, I guess.
Right,
It's
it's
an
just
addition.
because, and it's, our code completely hinges on the fact that because her residence sits in front of the others you see on either side, if she were back further, this wouldn't be before you at all, but it's only because the residence is in front of the others based on the street average.
And then, Joey, is it, if we were to make a motion, what are we, are we approving an addition on the existing foundation for a non-conforming residence, or what?
Your motion would be that if you're for it, you would find that this addition is appropriate, that this addition be allowed to be constructed at the same nonconformity as the existing residence.
But it would be as presented, as drawn and as currently being built?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You could do that.
So I guess my question is, it looks like, I looked it up, what house used to be there. It looks like the house was taken all the way down to the foundation, and then they just reused the foundation and started building another house. Am I missing something?
I don't know. Yeah, I'll open the public hearing if that's okay. Okay, I'll open the public hearing. And did you level the house and then?
I did not. All I did was pop the top off the roof.
Okay, so the wood frame is just,
It's all the same.
okay.
Okay, is that all the questions? Okay, we will reclose the public hearing.
Just for a point of clarification, and that's a good question, Ms. Davis, for our office purposes, and this will help you, I guess, in future cases, if they had taken this down to the foundation, they would be in front of you for a variance. Because the grandfathering protections of the structure last only because she did not destroy more than 50% of the residence. So if she had taken it all the way down to the foundation, this would be a variance case before you.
All right, then, have a motion?
I'll make a motion, sure. I'll make a motion that we approve the,
Yeah, it's hard, right?
non-conforming, yeah, thanks for taking notes. You're much more organized. Non-conforming structure, per the definition of zoning code, based on the fact that it reuses the existing foundation and it's reuses at least 50% of the existing structure, as was noted, and is still a reasonably sized house compared to the others in the neighborhood.
All right, there's a motion.
Second.
And there's a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes 6-1.
All right, Mr. Chairman, that convenes our board. Point of personal privilege, I'd like to wish my youngest daughter, Sarah, happy birthday.
All right, happy birthday, Sarah, and wish everybody happy holidays, and we will see you in the new year.
When is our next?
And we had 166 cases on our docket, which is, I think, a low for a long time. So that was
This past year.
Yeah, we're the last case we heard was 2021-166, and it wasn't too many years ago. It was 2019, 700 and something when we had sidewalks and short term all together. So good year, everybody. Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.